Puchitto rock shooter, developed by Imagipoc, or Imagipoch.
Hello humans and welcome! I'm Rock99 and I'm here for you back with Black Rock Shooter franchise review. We're still in 2011, a few months after Black Rock Shooter Innocent Soul release, and this time we found our heroine in yet another universe in Black Rock Shooter the game, released in Japan for PlayStation Portable. Eventually it was translated in English and made available in North America and Europe too. In Japan, the game was also distributed in a limited edition, the White Premium Box, which also included the game's artwork and the action figure of its main antagonist. And I wonder why I'm still here where these limited editions don't reach me. But let's not get depressed about it and let's continue already. Black Rock Shooter the game is a single-player RPG and was developed by the same company of the Puchitto Rock Shooters game. The concept and the story were provided by Uke, and the game was promoted with an animated trailer that featured the song No Scared performed by the Japanese band One OK Rock. This was also used as the game's intro. The gameplay mixes third-person shooter elements with RPG mechanics and takes place in different maps accessible as the player makes progress. The main playable character is Black Rock Shooter, with whom the player can explore the maps and fight enemies. When Black Rock Shooter comes into contact with one of these, the game enters battle mode, where it is possible to shoot with the rock cannon or use items and special attacks and skills. Battle mode's interface is similar to turn-based video games, however the player is given much more liberty. In fact, even if the player can only move to their sides, it is possible to aim and block and dodge attacks. The only limit is represented by this bar that increases as the player does one of these actions. When this is completely filled, the Black Rock Shooter system enters an overheat status, and it becomes impossible to do anything for a few seconds. The main story takes place in the year 2051. The Earth has been invaded by aliens, and humanity is near to its extinction. There are only 12 men left, and their goal is to awaken a weapon capable to save the world. This weapon is none other than Black Rock Shooter, here known as Stella. She is the result of a project of genetically modified clones that had to be sent against the alien armies. However, it turns out that the whole project was led by the very leader of these aliens, Sing Love, aka White Rock Shooter. So these clones, Stella included, were her clones, and the reason why Sing Love planned all this was that she wanted a perfect clone of herself, Tuneblade, in order to become even more powerful than she already was. Tuneblade here means to eat or to absorb. It is explained that these aliens eat other life forms to survive, and by doing so they obtain the skill and characteristic of what they enabled. Just to make it simple, if I enabled a bike, I would become a bike. So the title here not only references to the fact that this is a video game featuring Black Rock Shooter, but also to all this twisted plan made by the villain. Actually, the story is way bigger than this, but what I told you now is more or less what the game exposes. The truth is that the story goes even beyond the game. In fact, in released art books and booklets there is the rest of the lore and there's a lot to talk about. There you can find all the reasons and developments of the cloning project with Sing Love's involvement, and the process that led the birth of Stella and how she became the ultimate weapon. All this is also supported by a political background involving the various governments of the world, and it is also mentioned that the alien invasion began in 2032, and that they sent 3 waves of armaments against humans, one being more powerful and destructive than the other. In particular, during the second one, all the nuclear power that humans had at their disposal was stolen and used to drastically decimate the world population. Almost none of this is really mentioned during the gameplay. Since this wasn't complicated enough, a manga adaptation, well, more like a manga inspired by Black Rock Shooter the game, even adds subplots, flashbacks and backgrounds for the aliens you face in the game. Some of them in manga even plot against Sing Love in order to save what was left of humankind for them to not starve. Because, like I mentioned, they eat life forms. You sure need courage to eat humans though.
Human blood is so fatty and you never know where it's been.
Meanwhile, the flashbacks show how Sing Love comes to the decision to destroy humanity. And it turns out it was all because of him. Him and his ideas were the cause of this disaster. He also appears in the game sometime in Stella's memories, to show how he not only messed up with the world but also with this kid's brain. Anyway, I may appreciate the intent of enriching the aliens with backgrounds and reasons for you to empathize with them, even if they mercilessly killed everybody on Earth. But this didn't really help explaining certain things that happened in the game. Besides, Stella in the manga is not even that useful. Her development is rarely mentioned, and she's not even the one that defeats Singlove here at the end, if I got that right. Oh well, I guess this is the result of condensing the game's story with new information into small manga volumes. But going back to the actual game and leaving aside the story for a moment, the biggest problem here is that the gameplay is boring and repetitive. It's more than obvious that the player is given objectives that make Blackrock Shooter go back and forward around the map to make missions last longer. And even if the maps are full of different enemies, the battles are all the same. It doesn't change much but the enemies' looks and statistics. Only a few of them have different attacks that force the player to adopt different strategies. Not to mention that the missions with the Black Striker too are boring. It is all set as to make it an awesome speed sequence, but there's actually not that much of speed, and once you get the rhythm it's easy to just go through them. It hurts me to have to talk like this about something related to my favorite character, because for me it is extremely cool to control Blackrock Shooter and watching her do all these cool moves and animations. But this game has so many problems that I just can't overlook. Like the level design of the entire 4th stage, which takes place in the forest of Mount Fuji. Not only it uses textures that make it difficult to recognize your exact location, but it is composed by so many crossroads and you're basically forced to rely on the map. But the map itself is a simplified version of the stage, so it doesn't really match with what you see. This level gave me such an headache, and there's even a time-limited mission in it. If someone ever asks me what frustration looks like, I'll show them this stage. Another huge problem is that the free hunt missions don't have checkpoints. During the main story you can find them around the map, but they're completely absent in their free hunts. So you need to remember to save manually or you'll lose all your progress, even after you clear them. And since we're not satisfied yet, we can also point out that the animated intro that was used as the game trailer is a bit fake advertising. Blackrock Shooter is seen doing action that the player can't actually do. Besides, she has these jet-like wings attached to her outfit that in animation actually work as wings, but in the game there are nothing more than accessories. They actually say that it's just an outfit. Anyway, another thing that almost drove me insane is that with the main story it is possible to reach 2 endings, and once the considered to be good ending is cleared, the game awards you with extra missions.
楽しむがいい。これはエクストラだ。
There's Nana who feels the need to test Stella's devotion, or PSS members wanting Blacktrack to reach its maximum speed for some reason, or all the aliens wanting to test your patience with missions that require you to play with particular conditions. It is true that these lead to gags and funny outcomes like Singlove accidentally enabling herself, leading her subordinates like, okay, whatever. But don't you remember that I told you they put the whole story outside the game to explain why things happen? Considering this and the countless extra missions they added, why the hell would they waste time and space to put extra pointless content like this? They could have just added the actual lore, instead of making you go through meaningless interactions and fight the aliens' bosses over and over and over again. At some point I was really asking myself how many times I needed to kill them. When I played the game for the first time, I kinda accepted it as it was. But when I found out the entire story, I panicked, because I thought that I played it so badly I missed everything. But it wasn't me, it was the game's story not being in the game. Why would they do that? Why? But now allow me to focus on a positive detail, because I just can't accept that something so bad has a character I like so much. So I need to focus on something good. There is one thing that I truly appreciated, and that I think is a very good example of how the gameplay can be used to make the player experience things on a deep and emotional level. I'm talking about the sequence in which an injured Scylla is wandering in a snowstorm with nowhere and no one to go to anymore, after humanity has been defeated and all hope is lost, and making the player wander around without a goal, without a map, completely lost, and with Blackrock Shooter barely keeping herself up. The gameplay here transmits all the despair and tragedy of the moment, and I really appreciate it, because moments like this one in video games prove how the gameplay's interactivity can be used not only for action, but to transmit such feelings too. This is also the very core of the game design. Okay, with this said, we can put an end to Black Rock Shooter the game. So we're done with Black Rock Shooter's media released until 2011. Since video games are generally my favorite medium and this one had a lot to talk about, I wanted to give it its personal space. So now I thank you so much for watching this video till the end. Leave a like and subscribe for more and let me know in the comments what you think. If you agree or disagree with what I said, or if you have any reason to defend this game, but I doubt it. For more content and to know more about my reviews, follow me on social too. You can find the links in the description. Thank you again and see you next time with Black Rock Shooter franchise review part 3. Bye!